Good evening from the KTN News Center on this 14th day of July 2016. I'm Ben Kitili. KTN Prime begins now. Sign language interpreter is William Silla. Now, police are investigating why a police officer who was at work last night grabbed a gun and went on a shooting spree, killing 6 other police officers at Kapenguria police station. Abdi Hakim Masla signed off at 10 p.m. last night and returned to spray his colleagues with bullets at the station, which is in West Pokot County. KTN's Elvis Kosgei is working on that story. We shall be bringing it to you a little later on. Let's now move to the county of Lamu, where an Al-Shabaab terrorist was today killed when about 20 heavily armed militants attacked the Mangai Police Rapid Deployment Unit camp in Basuba, Lamu East constituency. According to the Lamu County Coordinating Police Commander Abdullahi Aden, Al-Shabaab terrorists who were armed with rocket-propelled grenades and who were shooting randomly tried to force their way into the camp at around 2 a.m. However, the attackers were repulsed by security officers. Aden says an AK-47 rifle and 3 magazines full of ammunition were seized from the militants as they fled. A police officer suffered minor injuries during the fire exchange, and the police commander has also called on locals to be vigilant and report any person with bullet or suspicious wounds to security agencies. Let's take a look at some politics now. The Orange Democratic Movement Party has now issued a 7-day ultimatum to Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba to officially tender his resignation letter or be replaced automatically as the party's Secretary General. Senator Agnes Zani, who was Ababu's deputy, will be the acting ODM Secretary General. Meanwhile, the party has threatened to go back to the streets and demonstrate against the IEBC if the National Assembly's Legal Affairs Committee does not stop hearing a petition seeking the removal of the IEBC commissioners. Chris Tairo has that story.
Nearly 2 weeks since Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba and his Funyula counterpart Dr. Paul Otuoma came out publicly and resigned as the Secretary General and Vice Chairman of ODM party respectively, they have never tendered their resignations formally. And so the National Executive Council, which is the top organ of the party, held their first meeting since the fiasco to deliberate of the issue. And after a 3-hour closed-door meeting, they had an ultimatum for the self-declared general in Kenyan politics.
The NEC noted that the Secretary General of the party, Mr. Ababu Namwamba, has been absent from duty for several weeks now. He has even been quoted as having made some pronouncements which have not been formally communicated to the party. The NEC therefore resolved to give him 7 days to resume duty or formally communicate his decision to the party for appropriate action to be taken.
The meeting, which was chaired by party leader Raila Odinga, also resolved that nominated Senator Dr. Agnes Zani, who was Ababu's deputy, will take up the position of an acting capacity in the meantime.
We haven't had any formal proclamation from him directly to the people who have given him that job to do. And this is the organ that is exactly responsible for now. So what we're saying is that, we're giving him that provision because we don't want to make pronouncements now.
Although Ababu has resigned as the party Secretary General, he's yet to leave the party, though all indications are that he might be moving to another party or form his own.
An army of 1 million men may be stopped, but you can never stop an idea whose time has come. And the idea of the Mlembe consciousness has arrived. And not even Raila Odinga coming to Western 1 million times will stop that idea.
Meanwhile, the party has now threatened to go back to the streets and protest against the IEBC commissioners if the Legal Affairs Committee, led by Samuel Chepkonga, does not stop its meetings with immediate effect and leave the Special Joint Committee to handle the IEBC stalemate issue.
We believe is a deliberate move by Jubilee administration to frustrate the work of the joint parliamentary team. We demand that the Honorable Samuel Chepkonga-led committee suspends with immediate effect its deliberations, or else we will revert to the streets protests until a genuine process is realized.
In Kakamega County, area governor Wycliffe Oparanya, who is also ODM deputy party leader, and Busia governor Sospita Ujamong have downplayed the current wrangles facing ODM in the western region, arguing that it will not affect the popularity of the party in the region.
To the best of our ability, it's only Ababu Namwamba was left. We've not heard of any MCAs. I've met them this morning who was left. Even the opinion leaders.
We are very confident that we are going to field candidates in every ward, in every elective position. And we are confident that we are going to sweep all the seats.
The governors were meeting party delegates from the two counties. Even as Ababu Namwamba faces a 7-day ultimatum, party leader Raila Odinga is expected to start a one-week-long campaigns in the western region to galvanize support in a region that has seen its leaders of late have a soft spot for the Jubilee side of the coalition. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
And my apologies, our sign language interpreter tonight is not William Sila, but Meresha Owit. Let's now cross borders to the northwest of the country. Since last week's deadly clashes in South Sudan, governments of countries such as the United States, India, Japan, and even neighboring Uganda had elaborate plans of evacuating their citizens. But not the Kenyan government. We spoke to Josh Kariuki, a Kenyan who is still in South Sudan, and his brother Caleb, who has since the clashes flared, been rallying for action, not just for his brother, but for other Kenyans still looking for an exit strategy.
Hello.
Every call that has or will go through from Caleb Karuga here in Kenya to his brother Josh Kariuki, who has been in South Sudan for nearly 2 months, matters.
Try to communicate, then, poor connection.
Thursday morning, the narrative told in Kenya is that Juba is calm.
Juba is calm. The shops have been open. We're able to move around. So Juba is very calm. We were about 300 people there at the embassy yesterday. Because we thought that there were plans to evacuate us or anything. But the embassy staff told us there is no plan.
But Josh hasn't just been speaking to his brother. He's been shouting to the world, a stem of messages confined in 140 characters each, the first tweet on July the 7th, and I quote, "Sounds of gunshots here in Juba. Government imposed 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew today. They kept coming, describing the worst hours, telling his own story, even reaching out to State House, Ambassador Mina Mohammed, and the Foreign Office Twitter handles. On July the 10th, and I quote, fighting has resumed in Juba and is escalating. Is any help coming or are we on our own?" But the replies were not coming, few answers to many questions. His younger brother Caleb rallied behind him.
Sunday evening was, I think, my worst day because my brother called me at around midnight and he got good connection. So he called me, he said, "Bro, I'm hiding under the bed and I just want you to listen to this." And the next thing I heard was just gunshots and I think missiles or whatever it's called, shelling going on. And for like a few seconds I froze.
With movement restricted, it was near impossible to get out. However, the governments of India, the United States, and even neighboring Uganda had plans to evacuate their citizens. Corporates and NGOs organized chartered flights for their personnel. Many Kenyans, like Josh, had to depend on commercial flights booked in advance, which only became available recently. Still, it's not that simple.
Yesterday and the day before yesterday, the Ugandan citizens were asked to register. They have registered and they are waiting. So we as Kenyans, we just have to join that convoy.
As of Thursday evening, Fly 540's outbound flights from Juba were only available beginning Friday. A one-way ticket costing 41,276 shillings. Kenya Airways cost between 58,000 shillings. But with the holidays before the fighting, many didn't have access to banks, and a state of normalcy is not yet a reality for foreigners in Juba. The Foreign Affairs Ministry has not disclosed any evacuation plan, especially after the ceasefire. There will be no forceful evacuation.
The wound that is in him, and he may not tell me he's my elder brother, but the wound is, when he wanted help from his motherland, it wasn't forthcoming when he needed it.
The work I do here, I am an aid work. I work with the local NGOs, and the work that we do is helping lives, save lives. Next time I come back, I'm coming back knowing that I'm on my own. My government is not with me.
Many families wait for their kin to come with multiple narratives at their time of need. In principle, Kenyans, even though away, don't stop being Kenyans. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News, Nairobi.
Hello?
Every call that has or will go through from...
Hopefully the Kenyan government will be able to reach out to Josh and other Kenyans stranded in South Sudan. To more insecurity, this time within the Kenyan borders. Police are investigating why a police officer who was at work last night grabbed a gun and went on a shooting spree, killing 6 other police officers at the Kapenguria police station. Abdi Hakim Mazla signed off last night at 10 p.m., then returned to spray his colleagues with bullets at the station, which is in the county of West Pokot. KTN's Elvis Kosgei reports from Kapenguria.
Early this morning, heavy gunfire rent the air at Kapenguria police station as a lone gunman took police officers and inmates hostage. Even before the officers manning the station situated 3 kilometers from Kapenguria town responded to the attack, the gunman gained entry and took cover at the station.
And just officers are just lined up just to make sure that the all premises is protected. And what we have gathered is just that the record squad has just entered in and just to make sure that this is the Al-Shabaab militia. With the unconfirmed reports, we don't know that maybe it's number 2 or 1 person who has been shooting the air in a duration of every 5 minutes. And they're lining up on their line of duty just to make sure that the all places is protected.
Sight of General Service Unit officers triggered shoutouts between the gunman and the officers. At the cells was a group of locals arrested, along with an alleged Al-Shabaab recruiter. The Office of the Inspector General of Police has confirmed that all inmates were safe by the end of operation. Though 6 police officers were killed, the gunman was a police officer at the station. It is still unclear why Officer Abdikadia Masla, who was at work Wednesday night, signed off from work at 10 p.m. only to grab a gun from a colleague.
Wenye familia hizo hawajajua, lakini kuna officers wamepoteza maisha na kuna officers ambao wamejeruhiwa na tumewapeleka hospitali wakiwa katika hali stable ambayo sasa saa hii wanaendelea kutibiwa. Lakini tukiwa serikali tumeenda kwa hiyo station katika hali ya kudhibiti hali ya station hiyo, na yule lone gunman yule aliingia kufanya hiyo maafa, hata yeye maisha yake hakuna. Kwa hivyo yeye pia hayuko hai.
Kuhusu police station yetu ya Kapenguria, tunashukuru maafisa wetu kwa sababu it has been brought to an end. Huyo jamaa ambaye alikuja akaingia kwa police station akaleta madhara ambayo mtaambiwa na bwana Arsi tuko naye hapa. Haya maneno yameisha.
Muwe macho hata na ndugu yako. Kama kuna mambo ambayo unatazamia ambayo si ya haki, usifiche kwa sababu ni ndugu yako, kwa sababu yeye ataleta madhara ile tunaona siku ya hapa.
14 students from Chewoyet Secondary who had been arrested for allegedly participating in arson attack were also at the holding site when the mayhem started. Residents who are watching the ordeal from far were wondering how a single officer could cause a terror for 9 hours in a protected facility.
Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Kapenguria Police Station, West Pokot County.
It has been a crazy day at the Kapenguria police station in the county of West Pokot, which culminated in the death of 6 police officers. Crazy day. That is the basis of our big question discussion. We are not asking you a yes or no question. We are asking you to comment on the killing of 6 police officers by their colleague in Kapenguria. Be sure to text those views to our studio line 22155. Also, you can tweet us at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is Kapenguria Cop Killer. Also, the re-emergence of machete-wielding gangs in parts of Mombasa has security chiefs worried. The tens of gangs operating in parts of the town have become a nightmare for most families, killing and stealing with impunity. As KTN's Francis Ontomo reports, the deadliest gangs include Wakali Wao, Wakali Kwanza, Kapenguria 6, and Born to Kill, operating in Kisauni, Likoni, and Changamwe.
When darkness sets in on Kenya's second largest city, Mombasa, city dwellers start the rush back to their homes. However, living in some parts of the city has now become a nightmare. Killer gangs have started emerging, and now everyone seems to be making the dash to reach home early.
Wanakutana na mtu anampokonya vitu wakiwa na mapanga. Sasa sijui ni kwa nini serikali inaruhusu watu kama wanatembea na mapanga. Ili hali tunajua katika Kenya wale wanaruhusiwa kutembea na silaha. Kwa mfano, kimila ni Wamasai.
The gangs are said to be armed and dangerous. Some residents confess of having come face to face with the squads, most of them barely out of their teenage years. School dropouts, baying for blood. They are daring, sometimes even hijacking public service vehicles and robbing innocent civilians.
Sasa vijana ni wengi, kazi hakuna na mtu kuna anahitaji. Sasa naona afadhali ajiunge na mambo kama hayo.
Sources privy to their operations say Wakali Wao and Wakali Kwanza, 2 of the deadliest groups, began as football clubs in Kisauni with a vision to help youths exploit their talents. But it's hard to explain how the vision took a different path, a path that now frustrates the lives of city dwellers.
Sasa haya makundi yanadhaminiwa na hawa viongozi. Kwa maana kila kiongozi ana vikundi zake za. Sasa wale vikundi vimepata nafasi ya kufanya pia waharifu.
Jukumu la Uhuru Kenyatta awatekelezee vile alivyoahidi katika manifesto yake kuwa yeye ni digital government na ataproduce 1 million jobs. So angalie vijana wana shida, wanateseka.
And today, top security chiefs in Mombasa, led by County Commissioner Mali Mohammed, sat at a round table with the sole agenda of how to finish the killer gangs that keep pouncing with impunity.
Na wakati mtoto wako atapatikana anastahili kuwa shuleni na anarandaranda na amehusika na mambo ya uhalifu, wewe mzazi pia tutakushika sasa uende kotini. Kwa sababu umekataa kutii polisi ya serikali. Wakati mtoto analipiwa na serikali, wewe jukumu lako ni kumpeleka shuleni.
The political class was here as well to buoy up deliberations. Mvita lawmaker Abdul Somad Sharif Nasser supports efforts to restore sanity on the streets, but the course, according to him, must not lead to arbitrary arrests.
Misako bila kujua ya kwa tunataka kumshika mtu gani, yatakuwa ni mambo ambayo tunaiangalia Mombasa yawe ni mambo ya zamani. Tunataka kujua ya kwa mtu fulani ndo anatafutwa, atafutwe mtu fulani na ashikwe yule mtu fulani yule ambaye kwamba ni mbaya.
Although their ideologies are still shrouded in mystery, it is clear that taming the killer gangs of Mombasa remains a top priority for security apparatus. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
So at the Kapenguria police station, a police officer grabbed a gun before shooting dead 6 of his colleagues before he was finally shot dead himself. We are asking you now, big question discussion, to comment on the killing of the 6 police officers by their colleague in Kapenguria. Keep sending your text to 22155. Join that conversation online on Twitter on hashtag Kapenguria Cop Killer. You're watching KTN Prime. Thanks for staying with us. We take a quick commercial break. Don't go too far. Spotlight 2017 still ahead. Is now an open debate. The crack in the Orange Party, triggered by Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba, is now widening and turning into what other disgruntled members are seeing as a transfer window. So between Raila Odinga and the rebel camp led by Ababu Namwamba will be left to the proverbial egg on their faces when the dust settles in Western Kenya. Tonight on Spotlight 2017, Duncan Khaimba delves into the orange crisis.
For nearly 3 weeks, ODM party leader Raila Odinga has been a man believed to be under siege as he finds himself dealing with a crisis within his party, perhaps one that he never anticipated, with only 13 months to August 2017 general election. It's yet again another internal rebellion that appears to have been masterminded by his once trusted lieutenant and party secretary general, the Budalangi lawmaker Ababu Namwamba, who has made it clear of his intention to rock the orange boat from within.
Mtu anakuja kueneza sumu ya kugawanya watu kwa msingi ya kikabila. Ati sisi na wao. Ati shenu ni shenu. Shenu ni shenu. Sasa hiyo haiwezi kusaidia sisi. Mpaka sisi zote tushikane pamoja, tuwe kama kitu kimoja. La sivyo, mtakuwa watumwa miaka na miaka na miaka.
Na wewe usitutishe ati tuhame ODM. Nyadhifa tumeachilia, lakini bado tuko hapa, tutakanyagana na wewe mpaka tuwe tayari na mambo yetu.
It's a scenario that has thrown the Orange House into a political crisis, which definitely will distract the opposition Supremo Raila Odinga, who now has to focus on fighting fire under his belly at a time he should be reaching out for more support in other parts of the country, which political commentator Barack Mluka says might throw Odinga off balance if continues unchecked.
The tectonic plates within Luhya land are moving, and that it is not something that can be taken lightly.
On Wednesday, former Minister Fred Gumo, another ally to Raila Odinga and an ODM delegate, was among a team of New Ford Kenya party leaders who have since dissolved their party in meeting President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, an indication that the center in ODM is not holding anymore, or at least for now.
Politics in this country and opportunities in this country are bargained within tribal clubs. That we can talk about tribal voter colleges, and that today you can talk about something like a Luhya consciousness, and it's a consciousness that has been missing in political circles for some time.
In a bid to reassure his support base that ODM is still the party to beat in Western, Odinga has lined up 4-day marathon rallies in Vihiga, Busia and Kakamega counties beginning Monday next week, a strategy Muluka says he might be forced to change.
This is a new dawn, a renaissance for our people. Na hatutawahi kuruhusu mtu mwingine tena kutukalia chapati. Umetukalia chapati muda tosha. Sasa sisi, we have grabbed our destiny into our own hands.
He must allow them to make their own formation and attempt to negotiate with them under their own umbrella. But if he continues to try to think that he's going to have direct access to the Luhya vote, I think he's likely to find that as a huge challenge going ahead.
Until recently, ODM has been enjoying massive support in Nyanza, Western, Coast and the larger Kisii. However, if the Namwamba-led rebellion is anything to go by, and should their supporters follow their local leaders, then ODM could again be losing its clout in Western, just as it happened with the Rift Valley region, leaving its solid support base with only Nyanza and Coast.
You must convince these people that you are the bee. Even as you bring out your sting from time to time, there must be every indication that you can deliver honey. But if you cannot deliver that, it is also very possible that you are going to be deserted.
The quagmire Odinga finds himself in isn't new. Former bigwigs who have left the fold include William Ruto, now the deputy president, Musalia Mudavadi, Najib Balala, and Henry Kosgei. Odinga has in the past jammed such hurdles. Will he surmount the challenge this time round? Duncan Hemba for KTN Spotlight 2017.
The Judicial Service Commission has opened the window for the public to share any queries they have against any of the 37 candidates shortlisted for the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice and post and that of the Supreme Court Judge. Tonight, KTN's Moremi Mwangi delves into the judicial careers of the 6 candidates shortlisted for the Chief Justice job and highlights key questions that each of the candidates may face during the vetting process.
Each of the 6 shortlisted candidates for Chief Justice will have a full day with the Judicial Service Commission to publicly defend their suitability to serve as the country's next Chief Justice. Court of Appeal Judge Al-Nashir Visram will have to denounce the PNU political tag as he defends his controversial appointment as Chief Justice in 2011 by retired President Mwai Kibaki, without consulting his then co-principal, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Visram's appointment was rejected by Parliament.
This has to go to the National Assembly. The ruling coalition has the numbers in Parliament, so perhaps they might be able to win the day.
Supreme Court Judge Smokin Wanjala will also have some explaining to do over where he stands in the recent acrimony at the Supreme Court, sparked off by the retirement age of judges dispute, a standoff which sharply split the 4 remaining judges into 2 camps. Justices Wanjala and Mohamed Ibrahim on one side, against Justices Njoki Ndongo and Jackton Ojwang. Ojwang's application for Chief Justice was rejected by the JSC.
Without being too harsh or too dictatorial, has got to actually be such so that they are able to relate to those on the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the High Court, and of course the magistrates.
But the vetting of appellate Judge David Maraga is also likely to rekindle memories of the 2008 murder of Ainamoi MP David Kimutai. Maraga handled the case at the High Court, where he reduced the charges against a traffic police officer accused of killing the MP from murder to manslaughter and sentenced him to 10 years in jail. That judgment was at one point queried before the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board. Justice Maraga was, however, found fit to serve as a judge.
So the 3 judges who are in the shortlist, as far as the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board is concerned, there were no issues as far as any of those 3 concerned.
But the ghosts of the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board may also come to haunt appellate Judge Roslyn Nambuye, who has previously been accused before the board of delaying delivery of judgments, while senior counsel Zamba Kitonga, who unsuccessfully contested the Kitui governorship in 2013, will have to convince the JSC that his political past will not interfere in his job if he becomes the country's Chief Justice, while Principal High Court Judge Musaga Mbogoli has to convince the JSC that he's best suited for the job after losing in his first stab for Chief Justice in 2011.
This time around, perhaps issues have settled down. The transition process is ongoing.
At the end of the process, one name will be submitted to His Excellency the President for submission to Parliament. We have no control over the parliamentary process. And after Parliament has gone through its process, then the name will be resubmitted back to the President for appointment.
Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. On the big question discussion, we're asking you to comment on the killing of 6 officers by their colleague in Kapenguria. Online on Twitter on hashtag Kapenguria Cop Killer. Very quickly, Winston on Twitter says it's so appalling that those entitled to protect us turn against each other. Where will we, the civilians, want to? Agostino Achando says our security authorities should bear the responsibility looking at the conditions the cops live in. Frederick Okango says the police are forced to live in hardship conditions with very little pay. The stress is real. And Joseph Otaka finally says a lone gunman taking Kapenguria police station under siege for 10 hours. It's a shame. Keep the text and tweets coming. After this quick commercial break on KTN Business, we tell you who the chair of the Chamber of Commerce is, as well as some not so good news for motorists following the revision of pump prices by the Energy Regulatory Commission. Stay with us. This is KTN Prime.
Tweet of the day in association with Duracoat Silicone Exterior Emulsion Paint.
A very good evening and welcome to KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. Well, pump prices for fuel are once again trending upwards, hitting motorists who had just started to become used to moderately low oil prices. New retail pump prices released by the Energy Regulatory Commission this evening show a 6 shillings and 76 cents increment in super petrol, 9 shillings and 53 cents for diesel, and 3 shillings and 41 cents for kerosene. KTN's Joy Doreen Bira has more.
The latest pump prices come as no surprise to many, considering the upward trend seen in the last 2 months across all types of fuel. Prices of super petrol, diesel and kerosene had been expected to rise steeply after Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury Henry Rotich proposed upward adjustments to the road maintenance levy by 6 shillings. While this was not implemented immediately after the budget, it has now been factored into this month's increase in pump prices by the Energy Regulatory Commission for both diesel and super petrol. For a litre of super petrol, consumers in Nairobi will pay a maximum of 92 shillings and 93 cents, while diesel consumers will pay 83 shillings and 24 cents for every litre. Kerosene, which attracted a 3 shillings and 41 cents increment, will retail at 61 shillings and 25 cents. The Energy Regulatory Commission also factored in the month of June's increased average landed costs for imported diesel at 11.5%, 3.03% for super petrol and 2.53% per ton of kerosene. During the budget reading, CS Rotich proposed introduction of excise duty on kerosene at 7.205 per litre to curb fuel adulteration after continuous complaints by stakeholders. Some analysts have viewed this move as being inconsiderate to the wananchi consumers of kerosene who are dependent on it for domestic use. In 2011, the Kibaki administration lowered duty on kerosene by 30%. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN News.
Indeed, tough times ahead. I hope you will fuel tonight as the prices take effect actually at midnight. Well, the Kenya Revenue Authority will widen the tax band even further to reflect current income trends and the cost of living. This is according to the tax collector who, 1 month after the Treasury presented its budget statement to Parliament, is now faced with the tough task of having to hit ambitious revenue targets as set out in the tax proposals. Kenya hopes to collect more revenue in this financial year with a target of 1.49 trillion to finance the 2.3 trillion shilling budget. KRA also intends to start levying taxes on churches, especially where they are engaged in commercial activity. Ethiopian Airlines has scored yet another first following the introduction of the new ultra-modern Airbus A350 wide-body airliner on its transcontinental routes through Nairobi. The plane, which arrived in Kenya last night to an exclusive reception by KTN News, is indicative of an airline which is making waves in flight, even as competitors, including our very own Kenya Airways, continue to struggle. KTN's Ashley Mazuri witnessed that and filed this report.
It's dubbed the world's most technologically advanced airline, with some airlines marking it as their future flagship. Indeed, it is the latest in commercial jetliners to take to the sky, and for Ethiopian Airlines, a first in Africa. The newest weapon in the 70-year-old airline's arsenal is Airbus A350, which touched down on Kenya's soil Wednesday to the awe of crew, customers and staff alike. Equipped with the latest in flight technology, the Airbus A350 has a passenger capacity of around 330 people.
It will give us really an edge because this is the first aircraft on the continent. So we are leading in a way the technology.
The plane is just one of 14 Airbuses that the Ethiopian has on order and which will be unveiled by the airline as part of its Vision 2025 strategy, in which it aims to grow its global footprint even further. To say the least, customers were very impressed.
I work back and forth Kenya and Addis Ababa, and the flight was wow. There was no turbulence. There was, it was smooth landing. And we are happy, and we wish we can get more flights like this in Kenya. KQ should do something about this. This is nice.
The state of affairs at the state-owned carrier is starkly different from the prevailing at Kenya Airways, which recently, apart from appealing for a government bailout, leased and sold off several new aircraft and cut staff in an effort to stay afloat.
The decisions that are being made are key for transforming the business back into profitability.
So just what is Ethiopian doing differently?
We've already designed our roadmap and we have milestones. So far, we have achieved all the milestones that we have set, despite the challenges. War affects it, price of fuel is affecting it, disease is affecting it.
Even as Kenya Airways is cutting staff, Ethiopian hopes to double its staff contingent from the current 10,000, increase the number of destinations from the current 93 to 120, and unveil several other new aircraft by 2025. Despite turbulent times facing airlines in Africa, Ethiopian Airlines seems to be resilient, proving truly that they are the new spirit of Africa. Ashley Mazuri, KTN Business.
Indeed, quite a piece of work there on the Airbus. Well, like my colleague Ben Kitili mentioned, the new chairman of the Kenya Chamber of Commerce and Industry is Kiprono Kitoni. He has been re-elected at the chamber for another 3-year term. That means he's defeated Sharif Ahmed, who had mounted a spirited campaign to try and clinch that position. And it's on that note that we wrap up KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. Coming up next is sports.
Welcome back once more. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sport. Dr. Moni Wekesa of the Moni Wekesa Anti-Doping Task Force has said that he is not surprised by the recent allegations by British paper Sunday Times and German broadcaster ARD, where local doctors were accused of engaging in doping practices that involved Kenyan as well as British athletes. Dr. Moni Wekesa chaired the task force that conducted the research and gave recommendations on what the country should do to curb doping.
Dr. Hassan Wario, Sports Cabinet Secretary, reacting to British newspaper Sunday Times and German TV ARD documentary that alleged Kenyan and British athletes were doped by Kenyan local doctors. Dr. Moni Wekesa, who chaired a task force that investigated the reasons behind the rise in doping cases amongst Kenyan sportsmen and women, says he's not surprised at all.
My lack of surprise is informed by the fact that since the last task force report, we've had very many athletes who are charged with offences of doping, bringing forth prescriptions that look fictitious.
The recent developments came just weeks before the Rio Olympics, leading to a lot of questions on the timing of the Sunday Times and their deep findings. Dr. Moni Wekesa on his side says Kenyans need to move away from the notion that the country is being unfairly targeted.
It took us over 50 years to get where we are. So then there's a lot of rot underneath that will equally take a bit of time to really clear.
While presenting findings from the 2013-2014 investigations, the Moniwekesa Task Force presented names of persons and chemists that were suspected to engage in doping practices. While speaking to KTN News, Dr. Moniwekesa chose not to get into the nitty-gritties of the contents of the envelope. He, however, added that the recent arrests on local doctors as well as a foreign coach and manager are just but the beginning of the long cleansing process.
It is probable that some of these foreign managers have had a hand in introducing some very sophisticated doping substances in this country. But then again, they are doing it with the connivance of the local doctors, local pharmacists, not to mention the individual athletes who aspire to become millionaires overnight. So the whole thing is so complicated that I think it's just fair for us to say, where is the problem, who are involved, and we deal with them.
In his parting shot, Dr. Moniwekesa, who aided in drafting of the Kenya anti-doping law, has urged Kenyan athletes to bear with numerous doping tests being conducted ahead of the Rio Olympic Games.
It is important for them to start on that starting line when the rest of the world believes that they are clean. That way then the rest of the world will have confidence in their winning.
Kenyan and Russian athletes will be subjected to extra doping tests due to the cloud of doping suspicion that hangs over the two countries. Lynn Washura, KTN News.
In football, Portugal are Europe's champions of Europe for 4 days. Let's now take a look at the best rated 10 goals of the just concluded Euro 2016. A look at some of them. Peter Theory on Twitter says, this raises questions on police recruitment and post-deployment assessment. Osaki Namoso says, time for the police service to get its priorities right. Police is a sick institution needing emergency care. And Abdullah on Twitter says, how on earth can a lone gunman torment a whole station for 9 hours? Something is not instilled when training Kenyan cops. Moredi Francis says, Rick J says the Inspector General should root out these so-called rogue police officers because the disease is contagious. Safe on Twitter says, we always wait for Nairobi to give directions on security issues across the counties. It is time for the counties to take charge. Finally, Ryan Musili Samir on Twitter says, that is so scary. It means even some police officers have been radicalized. Thanks for participating on our big question discussion. That's where we leave it on KTN Prime this Thursday night. Next on KTN News is The Last Word with Sophia Wanuna, where this conversation on the Kapenguria cop killer is set to continue. Up next on KTN is Jeff Koinange Live. Thanks for watching. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.